I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with some more paranormal romance recommendations where I'm going to recommend some books that feature witches and also psychic type characters. So let's jump straight into it. Starting off with witches, I would be remiss if I didn't recommend the Stay a Spell series by Juliet Cross. This is a series that features 6 sisters who are all witches and come from a magical family, and they are just delightful and fun. They have a very contemporary rom-com feel to them while still definitely being paranormal romance, and I absolutely love that about them. My favorite book in the series is always Practice Safe Hex, but I actually enjoy all of the books. They have fantastic audio as well. They are fun, they are steamy, and there's quite a bit of nerdiness and geekiness in them as well. Then I have the Arcadia Bell series by Jen Bennett. This does lean more urban fantasy, but there is a romance in it. It is about a bartender slash musician who gets caught up in magic and murder and ends up working alongside a single father who happens to be a demonologist to solve what's going on. I love Jen Bennett's writing, and this was really fun to read something of hers in her adult back catalogue. I also want to recommend a manga, Spell of Desire by Tomu Omi. This is a 5-volume completed story about a young woman who ends up meeting this mysterious man who turns up in her shop and reveals that she is a witch descended from a long line of witches, and that her mother is currently one of the most powerful, and he works for her and has been sent to protect her daughter. Throughout the 5 books, the heroine begins to explore her power, she begins to explore her desire, and it is a very fun, witchy story. There is beautiful, beautiful artwork in these volumes, and I highly recommend it. I also want to recommend Blood Kissed by Kerry Arthur. Again, this is more urban fantasy and follows the same couple throughout the series, so you don't get an HEA in this first book, but it is set in Australia, and I really wanted to include it in this list because the heroine is a witch, and she and her human familiar open up a cafe in a small town in Victoria, and it happens to be situated on werewolf territory. Then a murder happens and she ends up being pulled into it alongside one of the more senior wolves in the local pack, and eventually I believe it is their relationship. I haven't quite got there yet, but I just loved their interplay in this book and it made me want to continue reading. Another book you've heard me talk a lot about is The Witch's Wolves by Ellie Mae McGregor. This is an MMF paranormal romance. It's kind of like a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, except the werewolves in this book do not shift back into human form. The 2 wolves are actually in a committed relationship in this story, and the heroine ends up stumbling into their lives and kind of never leaves. It is very much a grown-up queer Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and it is short and delightful. There is also Caroline's Heart by S.A. Chant. This is sort of a paranormal steampunk story. It features witches and cowboys and is just a gorgeous, gorgeous story. It features a trans hero and a witch who has lost her soulmate and has spent so much time crafting this spell to try and bring her soulmate back. But when this cowboy is fatally injured, she ends up using her spell to save his life, and it is their relationship and the complexities of their relationship, and it is just so beautifully crafted and exquisite that if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you check it out. I also want to recommend Wicked Games by MJ Scott. This is another Australian author writing urban fantasy slash paranormal romance. This is a 3-book series. I've read the first 2 books. It does follow the same couple throughout, so I'm nearly at the end and nearly to their HEA, but it is part of the Tech Witch series. And the heroine in the story comes from a family that ended up using their magic for less than altruistic purposes, and so she's kind of stayed away from using her magic. However, she's also very good with technology, and over time she has built up this reputation as the tech witch. She doesn't actually use magic in solving tech problems, but she's very good at it. And she's then hired by the CEO of a VR gaming company to investigate a glitch that's going on in one of his newest games before it is released. And when she goes inside the game, she is confronted by this demon-like being, and this demon then begins to hunt her. And as I said, I'm 2 books in. I'm very, very invested in finding out what happens between the hero and heroine in this story, and I love this concept of mixing witches and technology and gaming. Like, it's just such a cool concept. I also read What the Hex by Alexis Daria. I listened to this as its Audible original. I'm not sure if you can get it as an ebook at the moment. You might be able to. This is about a young woman who comes from a long, long line of witches, and she's returning home. The witches live on this sort of magical island that humans can't get to, and when she turns up there for the wedding of her sister, she realizes that things are not quite right and there is just some strange things going on. She ends up having to team up with the groom's brother, who happens to be her high school nemesis, because they're the only two that sense that a demon has taken possession of the groom. It was just so fun and delightful. There is a magical B&B, there is an only one bed situation. You have these two rivals to lovers who have to sort out their past feelings while working together, and it was just really, really fun. There is Sorcerers Always Satisfied by Louisa Masters. This is the 4th book in the Hidden Species series, although you possibly could pick it up without reading the others. It is an paranormal romance with a sorcerer who is sort of the right-hand man to the person in charge of the Hidden Species government, and he's used to being in control. And in this situation, he is really taken outside his comfort zone because his fated mate is a fae who is not ashamed to call out his attraction and his love and the fact that they are fated mates to his face, which perfectly upsets the sorcerer's, worldview and disrupts his life. And it was just great seeing how he had to reckon with that. It was really fun. There is The Captive Merman's Promise by Zoe Castile, which was the group book pick for the Love in the Night readathon. This features a Bruja whose family has been cursed. She has taken on the entire curse into her own body and is seeking a way to get rid of it. And when she tries to make a bargain with a warlock, the merman, who has also entered into a bargain with said warlock, warns her off the deal, saying that he will never let you go. And it is her relationship with the merman, and it is a reverse Little Mermaid retelling. It is great, highly recommend. There is also The Sacrifice by Jessica Gaziella. This is a demon MC romance, and the first book features a heroine who is a witch and is sacrificed to the demon motorcycle gang as part of a deal between the covens and the demons. It is how she completely changes the dynamic of this group. It is the first book in a series, so it's a great place to go in if you want to try something just a little bit different. And also Witching Moon by Poppy Woods, which is a sapphic paranormal romance between a witch who accidentally summons the moon into human form and then has to try and find a way to get her back. This one is also really short, great. It has a beautiful, beautiful cover. All right, so that's it for my witchy recommendations. Moving into my psychics. So people with psychic abilities, whether it's telepathy, telekinesis, psychometry, anything like that, that's what I've thrown in here. It's not an extensive list. I really need to read some more because I actually love this in characters. I did talk about the Stay a Spell series, but I specifically want to mention Always Practice Save Hex, which is the 4th book, because the hero in the story is a Grimm, and the Grimm have a wide array of abilities, including some very interesting and unique psychic abilities that I made unique and interesting in combination with everything else. So I won't say what the Grimms are because I loved this concept in the book. Gareth has telepathy and telekinesis and a few other bits and pieces that make his relationship with Livy very interesting, and I just adored it. And I of course have to mention the Psy Changeling series because all of the Psy are characters who have some kind of psi mental ability. They run the gamut from telepathy and telekinesis to mental viruses to literally being the stability for the PsyNet, which is the psychic network that all Psy are connected to, and if they become disconnected from it, it can be catastrophic for them. So there is a huge array of things going on here, and I just love it. I mean, shout out to my favorite books in the series, Caressed by Ice and Heart of Obsidian, who feature very powerful telekinetic and telepaths. I just love them. But you also have teleporters and all sorts of things going on, and it is just really fun just to see the different array of abilities that are out there. I also have to mention the Hidden Legacies series by Lona Andrews, which features a lot of characters with the ability to move things with their mind and speak telepathically, but particularly Mad Rogan, who is the hero of the first 3 books. He is a very, very powerful telekinetic in this world, and it's like one of the most feared abilities because if you are very powerful in it, you can cause a lot of damage and you have to have a lot of specific training. Nevada, who is the heroine of the first 3 books, is a truth seeker. She's able to literally pull the truth out of people's minds. So, very scary stuff. And then on top of that, you have animal mages, people who communicate with animals, and you have mind control mages. You have characters who are literally able to manifest replicas of weapons in any situation as long as they're close by. There's so many cool things that go on in the series that just make it so fun, and it is just one of my all-time favorites. Psycho by Only James is more of a dark romantic suspense, but it does feature a character who is psychometric. So whenever he touches a person or an object, he gets flashes of the history of that object. So that was a really cool element. It's kind of the only paranormal element that we've had in the series, but I really enjoyed the inclusion of it. Lucas is a really fun character, and it perfectly suited his personality. It is the 2nd book in a series though, so just be aware of that. And then I wanted to mention one other Ilona Andrews story, because this was so unique. It's kind of sci-fi paranormal romance. It's called Silver Shark and it's part of the Kinsman universe. So we have a heroine who is known as a psyker, and that is someone who has the mental abilities to manifest psychic abilities in the real world, but also sort of in a virtual reality world. And she used to be former military, but she was booted out and now she's kind of in hiding, and she gets this job working for a company where she ends up working as the assistant to one of the most powerful psychers she's ever met. Along the way, something happens in the VR network or the bionet, and she ends up going in with a team of people to try and sort out this mess that's going on. And it's such a cool concept. Like, it's very hard for me to describe, and I need to go back and reread it at some point because I'm a little bit hazy on the specifics of how it worked, but it was one of the most unique stories that I'd read, and I thought it was such a cool concept. So those are my witch and psychic recommendations. In the comments, I would love to know if you have any others to add to this list. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a witch emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.